Hi, let's call the Public Works Committee meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Cindy,
Here.
Seth,
Here.
Todd,
Here.
Andrew,
Here.
and Crystal.
Here. First period for public comment. Nobody is here. Anyone online like to comment? We can talk for 3 minutes. Nobody's on?
Well, besides
The two guys?
committee members.
Okay. Approval of committee minutes from February 25th, 2025.
And this is Crystal, and I would move approval of the committee minutes from February 25th, 2025.
Todd will second it.
Motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any further discussion? Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Okay, motion carries. Approval to accept DOT HISP grant for Walmart intersection. Yay. Sarah, take it away.
It's popped me off here.
So go ahead and stop sharing.
Stop share.
Yep.
Why? It looks
Trust me.
great.
Well, it is, but it's not online
Oh,
because you're okay. So go ahead and try sharing again. Sorry.
sorry, everyone. We're
So
getting
move
there.
move that to your docking station. You'll have to. This is where it's hard. So on full screen.
Trying. I'm not so
No,
good
it's
without my mouse.
No, it's okay. Move that over here. And then share screen. But do the entire second screen. So whatever you put on that screen is visible.
Okay,
That's your public screen. You're
perfect.
good now.
Now we're good. Okay. Okay, so I've got a couple documents here for you. So the good news is this is actually us talking about the grant that we officially have now. So that's always good. Just getting my notes set up. I'm also trying to pull this up. Nope. Almost. Oh, there we go. Okay. So I was originally showing the first screen, but you guys all know what I'm talking about. It's probably more important for the next screen. So we applied. Well, we actually didn't apply. The DOT applied for the project for Highway 14 and Walmart intersection. I'm on the wrong one here. It's this one, I think. So essentially they approved our request. I'm still doing it wrong. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so essentially they approved the request. We made a request to them to make it a part of their highway safety improvement program. And we'd heard a while ago that it was looking really good, but until they give us this agreement, it's not official. So basically, it's everything we had been talking about before, meaning it would be a signalized intersection. The provisions, though, is that they are looking at the conditions now, which means there's only 3 legs to that intersection, right? There's like north, south, and east. And so this does not fund the intersection on the left side. And they are fully aware it's coming, but they don't do that. That's pretty standard. A developer would take care of that cost, and guess who's the developer? Or the municipality might, but it certainly would not be the DOT. So they basically have the grant as is without that amount. And so you can see here, HISP program, we always like HISP because essentially it's 100% funded by the federal state funds, except for 25% of the preliminary engineering. And so in this case, that would be a total of $28,750 Plus, they do make us do like these small payments for the construction, right? So there's 1,000 there, 2,000 there in total. So basically, this would be our portion of the project on the 3 legs. And so we would also be responsible for the cost of the 3rd or the 4th leg. And I'm trying to remember, I believe that was like 1/3 of this cost, so about 250,000. We don't have to worry about like the controller and sort of the general setup. So for the most part, like there are a lot of costs that end up being on the side of the DOT, but it is certainly going to cost us to put the remaining in. So this is a DOT project, which means that they are going to execute the contracts. They tried to convince me to do it like we did the TAP project, and I said, no way. I said, if at all possible, if we can get this funded being a DOT project, it's just so much easier because even though it sounds really good for it to be municipally let, basically we have no say in it. So we go through and do all this work. We're directly responsible for all of the costs for engineering. And then they still tell us what we can, like how, if we can approve the contract. And it's just, there's no sense. It just really doesn't benefit us. It just ends up being more work for me. So that said, I think this is a really good opportunity. Basically, it is considered a expedited timetable, but they do look to get it done in 2027, which is what we've always talked about, which falls well in line with what we're looking at for the Hanson Farm development, which is sort of you know, something to be considering when we're looking at doing, you know, getting that connected. We want to have a controlled intersection at that time, I would say. So we're looking for approval. This would go to council before we sign it.
So it'd be a straight shot from Walmart across.
Correct. Yeah, that the future Hanson development has a like a 4-way intersection
Okay.
at Walmart there.
I have a question on the timing of it with the Hanson Street going in and the signals going in. Will that all be happening at the same time, or it will be staggered, or?
Well, ideally, we would have our projects coincide so that
Okay.
everything happens at the same time. And then I would imagine, so in my vision of what would happen would be that this contract goes first, and then hopefully we can bid it out after. Knowing who's doing that, they probably would give us a pretty good price.
Sarah, would it be fairly similar to what we did with the Main Street project and Main Street and Decker intersection?
For the most part, but not exactly, because in the way that we did that was that we executed both contracts and we made them an A and B contract, and then we had a provision for a cost additive deduct to do if they got the second one. So it's similar in the sense that we really want to piggyback on the fact that somebody's already mobilized to be here and hopefully feels like it's a full project for them.
Okay. We're looking for a motion to accept the grant.
And this is Crystal, and I would move to approve that we accept the DOT HISP grant for Walmart intersection.
Todd will second it.
Motion by Krista to accept the DOT HISP grant, second by Todd. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Seth,
Aye.
Todd,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
Crystal,
Aye.
and Cindy.
Aye. Motion carries. Discussion with possible action regarding DOT HISP grant for County Double B intersection.
So this was a surprise. I was, if you remember back to the day that I was at home sick, I opened up my email and I'm like, what are they talking about? It got me out of bed and I'm writing frantically to Nate going, whoa, what's going on here? So this is the gist of it. So the DOT put together a second HISP application for the city to work on basically realigning this intersection. It really comes down to not a heck of a lot of change to the functionality of it. But what they're trying to do is that, sorry, I was trying to zoom in a little bit. Ooh, too far. If you look at it, somewhat hard to see, but essentially this left-hand turn lane is not lined up with this left-hand turn lane. So in order to actually see the traffic that's coming here, if somebody's left-hand turning, it actually blocks the driver from seeing properly. And this is a little bit better, but they're still not properly lined up. If you look at how our intersection is here on Decker now, they actually have the left-hand turn lanes lined up with each other. So that is what they brought forward, and it warranted enough accidents that it's actually a higher cost project than the traffic signal at Walmart, which I begged and pleaded for. So again, this was a surprise to me. So I guess the first thing that happened, before I called Nate freaking out or emailed him was to call the DOT freaking out and saying like, whoa, because they wanted us to sign this with costs starting in 2025, which is right now. And the contribution was 25% of the design, which is $60,000. And so I said, this is really, really big for Little Viroqua. Like, you can't just say, pay us $60,000 this year. I said, our budget's already in place. So I gave them the sob story, and well, I sounded pretty terrible because I was at home sick. So anyway, long story short, I'm not asking for an action on this today because basically what I told them was like, this is going to take us time to figure out if we're going to do this, if we want to do this, and where we're going to find $60,000. And she figured they could slide the time frame back. She said, usually people are trying to speed us up, not slow us down. And I'm like, I know, because we're asking them to speed up on the other one. But this one, I just felt like we certainly don't want to reject $1.6 million on a project that clearly there was enough, sorry, I was trying to zoom in a little bit. Clearly there's enough accidents happening there that it warranted them to do this. So I said, well, why did this come up? Because, you know, it wasn't initiated by us. And apparently like they do these kind of groupings of similar intersections. So they like this, and I don't even know what other community has it, but they have these groupings and they kind of go through this like cycle of examining all of them. And so there's other places that have like a similar situation that are also getting funding. And it comes down to accidents, and it's deemed that the accidents that are occurring at this intersection, knockdowns of poles, that kind of thing, are, you know, going to be reduced by this change. And really, again, it's an alignment thing, but they're having to do all the like bump out boulevard kind of things over, not bump out, but boulevard concrete areas. Basically all the traffic signals would go down and they'd put new ones up. So there's a lot of like work there, even though I kept looking and I'm like, that's all you're doing. But again, it's $1.6 million. So in the application that I got, let me see here, I ended up with this other SMA, and I'll just show you the breakdown. Oh, wrong screen. So, yeah, so they had 13 targeted crashes from 2020 and 2024, and 7 of them were angled crashes. So their justification, you know, as a part of this project, oops, no, this is the wrong one. Not wrong one. Oops, my lie. Okay, hold on. I'm struggling with all of these screens. This is Walmart, but the other one, I think. Let's try this again. Hopefully I didn't close the wrong screen before and have to dig it out. Yeah, this is the one. But they don't have. So this is the cost breakdown. Hold on, let me just pull up, if I can, that the information. Sorry. Yeah, it's this one here. Oh, I just showed you this. Darn it, where is the in any case, hold on. Oh, here we go. 19 crashes, excuse me, of varying reported in the 5-year analysis period with 7 resulting in injury. So in injury, so they're very similar. So I think we should circle back and talk about this. It would be nice to figure out exactly like how much time we can push it back, because we're going to have to come up with that money if that's what we choose to do. I would say this is probably could be considered related to TID 7 is maybe a possibility. I don't know, but again, all like surprising. And yeah, I don't know. Who wants to say no to a good idea? It's just cost money.
What, was she receptive to pushing it back? You said,
Yeah.
she said,
They were willing to slide it back, and basically I think we need to, so I think she said 2027 would be the last year we could push it back to, because I think it's 2024 to 26, or there's like or excuse me, 24 to 29, or it's 25 to 30. There's like a time frame in which we need to get the project done, because it's the funding cycle years. And as long, they always want a good 2 years in which to go through the whole process, because they are very formal about their real estate transactions and the historic and the environmental reviews. And so they just assume it's going to take 2 years to get through, which is why we would be starting this year in 2025 for the traffic signal, but they're hoping to get it done in 27, right? So this one, if we pushed it to 27, that's sort of the time frame. So again, I will come back with this, start thinking and mulling it over again. I asked Rick, I was like, have you heard about this from the highway safety committee? And he wasn't aware of it either. So at least there's people looking out for us, but maybe
yeah, I was
not
going to
the
ask
best.
if Rick had talked about it, but he hasn't talked. Huh, interesting. Did you have something, Chris?
Yeah, I just wondered, were they have to require land? Do we even know that? Or are they going to work within the
They-
right of way? We
They
don't
are
know yet.
required by law to meet all ADA requirements, which
Okay.
usually means the curb ramps don't comply.
Gotcha.
But generally, it's not 100%, but that's why we ended up doing all those little stuff, even
Yeah.
though the first project was already DOT.
Yeah.
I mean, that was in 1999. They did all that work, but they're very strict about
Okay.
it.
Thank you.
So they'd have to look at it and see.
Okay.
So you said the action would be.
I don't think there is really an action on this one.
Okay.
I just think that I wanted to bring it forward so you knew about it.
Yeah.
And we can start considering whether we want to try to figure out if we have money to pay for this. And, even though it's 2027, it's really not that far away, right? So, yeah, I think there needs to be some consideration put to it. But I guess 19 crashes with 7 resulting in injury is something to consider, especially even though I misspoke about it being the other one. I mean, it's a similar amount of crashes as we're seeing at the other intersection, right? So,
Okay.
yeah.
So moving on, discussion with possible action for Center Avenue grants.
Okay, well, so I guess I should always first start by saying that when I say Center Avenue, it truly means more than Center Avenue. So that's often a confusing point. So this is going to be basically what I would say the east side of downtown. So looking at Court Street, but also doing parts of the side street. So it would be Center Avenue, it would be 1 block of Court Street, 2 blocks of Jefferson, 3 blocks of Terhune. So it's kind of this like very all-encompassing project. So this is our current construction engineering estimate. That's it's a $3.45 million project, so not a tiny one. And if you look at how it's broken down, we always take the street cost, we split it in 3 because we, water and sewer obviously contribute to needing to dig out the road, right? And so we have a good bad problem. So we applied for the MSID, which is the discretionary part of the LRIP program from the Wisconsin DOT. And we ended up getting $963,000. So that one we have until 2027 at least to be able to spend the money. And it's pretty solid. I would say we don't have a lot of concerns about that one. We use the program a lot. It is specifically for street and storm sewer costs. We do require that it's a 50-50 match with the city, which means that of the 932,000, that the city in some way needs to put in 932,000, which often we just accomplish by our loans for the rest of the project. So we, knowing this, that, you know, we're always playing this like three-pronged approach, right? We've got our general fund, our water, and our sewer. We also applied for the DNR Safe Drinking Water Program. And that can be it's a low interest subsidized loan program that also provides principal forgiveness, which is essentially a grant. It's very competitive because we're taking like a water main replacement project and competing against wastewater or water treatment plant upgrades. So like PFAS projects, well, that might be a little bit of they have a special category, but maybe not enough. Anybody that has like any contaminants in their water would also be competing with us for this grant. So typically on road construction projects, it's really unusual to see any principal forgiveness, even though the bill money got dumped into these programs. So there is a little bit more money than normal. So we applied for the 2025 funding year because that was what was available. They do it on an annual basis. And we got $1.218 and $900 for loan. And these loans are really pretty good. I think when we looked at it, what was it, maybe it was 1%. It's like usually it's market rate and then it's subsidized. Plus, because we fall into the lower income categories, we get an additional subsidized rate. We did not get any principal forgiveness. Then we, at the same time, more or less, we applied for the Clean Water Fund, which is the sewer side of the DNR program. And to my surprise, we ended up getting a loan amount of $588,000, but we also got a principal forgiveness of $392,000, which really surprised me. So that's awesome. Again, same sort of thing. We're competing against the wastewater treatment plant upgrades of the world, which generally just rate higher because there's just more concern. So these top three are the ones that we have in hand. So they are approved monies, we know about them. The third or the fourth would be the appropriations money, which we've been approved on the actual bill for quite some time now. I would say probably about 7 months at least. But because this is a federal bill, we don't know what's happening. And so originally it was like November, it was going to be okay or big answered. Maybe it was October, and then it was post-elections, and then it was January, and now we're here and we're still wondering. I would say more than normal. It's kind of hard to tell what the outcomes will be. It never guarantees you, even if you're written into the bill until the bill is passed, it's not guaranteed that you look at it. It's usually pretty likely, but we've had that situation. So the first time we applied for the sewer project that we're currently doing and have appropriations money for, the first time we were on the bill and it got taken off. And then the next time we were on the bill and it stayed in. Same with the fire station. So, you know, it's not a done deal, but it looks good generally. The thing is, it's an unknown currently. But we did get written into the bill for $1.53 million. The only stipulation on that one is that at least $382,000 has to come from the city, which overlapping with the MSID is, you know, we're already putting that money in, right? So that I think is really not to be too concerned about. So as you can see, in theory, we have a couple problems. One is that we have more money than we need, which is always a great problem. But we have restrictions on the ability of what we need for matches. So we can't just say, oh, we'll take the 2.85 million and, you know, whatever remains for the loan and we'll see you later kind of thing. Like that's unfortunately not the case. And we'll have to have that conversation in the future. But what we do need to talk about today is that this Safe Drinking Water Loan Program is running out of time. So due date, meaning this June, we need to have a executed construction contract in order to hold on to the money, which basically means we would need to do it now. So the Safe Drinking Water Loan Program, I would say both of the DNR programs historically have had more loan money than they can give out, and typically fighting for a loan is no issue. They actually would accept loan applications mid-year outside of the cycle of the principal forgiveness because that was just, they had it available. This year, they were able to fully fund all the applications in the Safe Drinking Water Program, so I think that's a good sign. On the Clean Water Fund side, they weren't. However, at this point, we have a little bit of breathing room. So we had a meeting with the DNR, and the DOA lady was there as well, about like, this is a pickle because we don't want to gamble 400,000 hoping we're going to get 1.5. I mean, we could, but we just really seriously have to consider what that means, right? We know that we have 400,000 in hand. But again, we have a little bit of time, whereas on the Safe Drinking Water, we have no grant. We have our intent to apply in, and we can reapply for this money. So basically what we more or less agreed upon as was probably the least risk strategy was to allow that 2025 application for the Safe Drinking Water Program to lapse and to reapply, which theoretically should be relatively easy since we've already put the application in. We just need to update numbers. So Cheryl gets to do the work mostly. But that just seems like they aren't really the best option now. I think that looks like the best option as well. Those people who are sort of involved with it think it looks like the best option, but this is certainly not a decision I want to make on my own. So that's what I have in front of you today, is that consideration about being okay to say, we're just going to pass on this loan for this cycle and we're going to apply for the 2026 cycle, which, given where we're at in time, is probably more likely that at least the project is going to be a 2025, 26 or 26 project. We're probably not going to get this whole thing done in 25, even if we wanted to.
I'm kind of confused. That mean we're gonna
It's very
do
confusing.
the Center Avenue project, or
We would what?
are we gonna start the Center Avenue?
No,
That's what
that's
you're
the
s-
idea, is that,
Okay.
so I should take another thing to say is that the appropriations money is under HUD and economic development. That's, for whatever reason, that's where they put it. They kind of take all the appropriation projects and then split them up. And HUD does not allow for us to do work ahead of approval. And with our EPA projects, it took us a year to get them from the day that the bill got approved to us actually being able to make a move. So it's basically delaying starting the project and allowing, which means that we wouldn't qualify for the Safe Drinking Water Loan Program for 2025 any longer.
How about the grants then?
So we don't have to worry about this for the grant. This one doesn't have a grant. This one, and we're going to end up having to have the conversation about this in the next month or two.
Okay.
But we're hoping there may be some direction approval of an appropriations grant. I will say the one thing that surprised me was that Kurt from Veerbecker the other day sent an email out saying, have you heard from Van Orden's office? They're asking for 2026 applications. So that kind of surprised me because I thought, wow, does that mean that the appropriations are going to stay? Maybe. I don't know. I mean, you would think if they knew they weren't, they would not ask people for more applications, but I guess no one really knows, right? So.
Okay. So we need a motion to wait on the safe drinking or
And
let
to
it go and reapply
in
in
26.
26,
Yeah, I think
okay.
that's our best option.
Okay. You want to make that motion, Todd? Crystal's getting ready to.
I'm just confused, believe it or
Please
not.
ask questions.
So
So are we on 6 or 7?
we're on 6.
6.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I thought.
So this is very confusing, and Sarah had to spend about 20 minutes, 25 minutes in my office explaining it to me, even though like I had worked with her on the budget spreadsheets for the capital improvement plan. And in a nutshell, to me, what we're doing is we're giving up the possibility of safe drinking water because it's the timeline is too quick, and the rest of the funding we just don't know about specifically because of the appropriations. And so we're sort of letting that one go for this year, waiting to hear about the appropriations money, and assuming that we're going to be able to reapply for that safe drinking water loan going into next year is in a nutshell what I
Correct.
understood. And I said to Sarah, like, that makes sense. We just aren't in a place where we can really start signing construction contracts without knowing what is going on with the appropriations. And as Sarah said, it's going to take time, even when we do get notice of award, to go through the docket process, and with the state of federal employees, who knows how long that's going to take, and et cetera, et cetera. So
Especially given the amount.
yeah. So I was a big fan of her plan to just stay off of this safe drinking water loan at this time.
Okay, now I'm ready. I would like to move that we let the safe drinking water award expire and reapply in 2026.
This is AJ, I'll second.
Center Avenue project? Do we need to say anything about
I don't think so. I think it's
that kind of says it?
works for me.
Okay.
That's what I had already written down before Crystal said her motion, so I think we're good.
Okay, was that Seth that seconded?
AJ.
AJ, okay. So we have a motion by Crystal, second by AJ. Any more questions? Roll call?
Todd,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
Crystal,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
Seth.
Aye.
Okay, review and approval of request for delayed sewer connection at 910 Railroad Avenue.
All right, so this is, I guess, somewhat procedural. Let me just make sure I get it up here for you.
So nice we can do these maps and things now. We didn't used to be able to do all this stuff.
So this is for the Railroad Avenue project. So the way that the ordinance is written is that if we come with sewer by a property, that they need to connect within 90 days. And when we first started doing the Railroad Avenue Phase 1 project, we felt like that we wanted to be able to give opportunity to delay it further than 90 days. So in order to not be required to connect within 90 days, we added to the ordinance this provision for a delayed sewer connection. So essentially they have to apply and ask for it to be delayed. And so Marion did an amazing job. I literally sent the email or sent this in the mail, and it was back in my office within the week. And so he just felt like he had just recently made improvements to his sewer system or septic tank and just wanted the 5 years. He actually, though, did talk to me today about getting all of the plumbing lined up so he can make an easy connection. So he's just honestly doing the best that I could ask for. So looking for approval for him to have a delayed connection.
Who wants to make that motion?
Okay.
Yeah, how about Seth or AJ? Nothing.
This is Crystal, and I would move approval of the request for the delayed sewer connection at 910 Railroad Avenue.
Okay, motion by
This is
Chris,
AJ, I'll second.
second by AJ. Okay, any more discussion? Okay, do we need a roll call? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Approval to advertise for salt shed bids.
excuse me, let's try that again. I'll start from the beginning. Okay, so the salt shed building, we've been looking to build a new salt shed for some time. We actually have the DOT after us about repairing our existing buildings, and we've been telling them we're building a new one soon. So the location that we're looking at is north of Salt Shed, or excuse me, the Public Works shop. There is a pole shed and an open space that used to be the county property. And so that's where we would like to build. So we've been working on this for some time. Becker is the firm that we're working with. They recently took on like a building engineering arm of their department or of their company. And so we've been working with them on this. And so this originally started when Chad was still around, and he did a lot of the work, the groundwork, in order to, figure out what kind of thing we were looking at in terms of sizing. And then we worked with Vera Becker to figure out like the exact quantities based on the building size. So currently we're looking at a 60-foot by 100-foot structure with a 20-foot high storage building. And you can see there it says that we would have just over 800 tons of salt and about 2,000 tons of sand salt mix. So essentially the building would have like the base would be all concrete. So what we're suffering with in the current situation is that the salt is up against wood and the wood is just disintegrating really. So the bottom 12 feet would be concrete, and then it would be like, a wood with steel exterior. So in the base bid, you can talk a little about that PVDF coating and having an asphalt floor. And so I guess that's sort of the basic base bid that we have. But we prefer a concrete floor. So the reason we don't have that is the base bid is that we are looking at a cost that we weren't expecting. The total amount of what we ended up with when we were asking firms was higher. So we were trying to figure out ways that we could cut back if necessary. So my favorite thing is an alternate bid because it gives us the ability to look at the cost for real instead of speculating and then make a choice about the value. So there's a number of alternate bids. The other one is the exterior steel panel having that SMP finish instead of that PVDF finish that is recommended. There's snow guards, which we are kind of wishy-washy on, but the designer thought it would be helpful to at least know what that would be. And then having the city do some removals and placement of soil. So at that location, there's a lot of material that just kind of got thrown there. It was not the like native soils, it's soil that was brought in and it's not suitable for building. It required that we make the footers a lot deeper to get to a good material underneath. And so they did a lot of calculations to figure out what would make the most sense. And this approach where we take 2 feet off basically the entire site and then put good materials in actually reduce the size and shape of what needed to come for the footers, because the 12-foot walls are basically what's holding the salt sand mixture in, because we're building it up so that we can hit to that point. That's why it's 12 feet. And so it's the exterior walls, but it's also like an interior divider wall as well. So the idea here is like, we did not want to get into digging out the footer area and placing soil, but taking off 2 feet uniformly and putting in 2 feet of suitable material we thought is a possibility for us. And so we put it as a bid alternate. And then the last, which we're not super fond of, but again, we're just trying to figure out all of our options, is to reduce the building footprint. So it would be just shorter, 80 feet versus 100. So it does have a fairly significant reduction in the amount of salt and sand mix that we can hold onto, because we're essentially like the way they calculate the volume is kind of like these slope sides and this like full middle. And so the slope sides still stay and you take out like your full cube, so to speak, of what's in the middle. So it's unfortunate, but again, trying to really work through how we can make this work. We have used less salt in the last 6 years plus than we have historically, but it's hard to decide whether that's a good way to analyze it because weather is tricky. And who says we won't get the storm events that we've had to deal with in the past that required us to have more salt? We have done the pre-wetting, which helps, has reduced some of the salt usage, which is wetting the salt before it gets applied so it's activated and stays in place. We have started this year doing the brine, so the county's doing it for us on Main Street, and we put in the capital improvement plan to have a truck of our own to see, or not a truck, but a setup of our own so that we could do that as well. So, I mean, there is some consideration and forecasting that is necessary to figure out exactly how much we want. We order this current year, I'm thinking we're going to be ordering 400 plus reserve, which is basically 480 tons. But I've ordered 600 plus, so it equates to 720 tons in a year. So it depends. This year, though, this past year, we had enough stored that we ended up only ordering 200 tons. So it's just really hard to judge. And we're certainly consistently gaining more roads, right? I mean, we look at the Hanson development and the business park, and every time we develop and add more surface, it equates to us taking care of more. And so this building, we would expect to have a 20-year life, hopefully longer, but we have to assume that we're not going to look exactly the same today or in 20 years as we look today, right, in terms of road surface. So we felt like this was a good number, but again, we're looking through all of this. So, we're looking to get this built this year in 2025. We're trying to keep the deadline open because we would like to give as much flexibility to the contractor as we can. And really, we have enough salt. We have another order coming in that we shouldn't need to load more salt before November 28th. So we'd like to not fill the sheds again. We want to fill this building when we get new salt, right? So what I am asking for today, so I should continue. So when we originally did this estimate, we had $300,000 for the entire project. And we spent $25,000 on engineering. And the reason we had that $300,000 number was that we had one out of all of the builders that came in at that number. We still have that person interested. And as of yesterday, they were starting to look into more detail to give us sort of a general idea, and they maintained that number. So that's good news. But when they're asking other people around about what they were looking at, they're in that 400 to 450,000. So that is why I would really like to bid this out. We always have the opportunity to reject all bids. If we don't like it and we can't figure out how to make the financing work out of looking at all of these, we're not committed to building. But we certainly do need to build something. And I think until we have actual bids, we won't actually know what we're talking about. So that's what I'm looking for today, is approval to just bid this out and see what happens.
Are we okay if, like, with the 400 to 450, if that's kind of where everybody falls? Is that an okay number? Are we all right?
Not as of right now. We were budgeted 300,000 for the project, and I think we could probably come up with a little bit through, salt purchasing not happening and whatnot, but it's not what we're allocated.
Right. And that's global budget for the project is $300,000.
That's the construction. So we've already spent whatever, close to
Right.
14,000 in engineering.
Right, and that's why
Mhm.
I'm saying the project budget that because we've already loaned for this project. I mean, this
has
project
been in
has
the
been
works.
in works for a number of times, but it's 300,000 we've actually loaned for this project. Either, let me rephrase that. We've loaned a certain amount already to cover engineering costs. We intend, through the last conversation we had about our debt, to loan for another 280,000 this year. Of course, that can change if it needs to, but do know that our capital improvement plan is strained right now. So any additional borrowing we do for this project just makes it that much tougher for other projects down the road. So it's not as if it's a hard number, but it is just like anything. The money's got to come from somewhere. So I think, to Sarah's point, we've been stuck in a position where we just don't know what the actual budget will be, because we're getting one really great number and then three numbers that are a tight grouping, but maybe it's not or is much higher, right?
Right.
$20 years, that's too bad. It's not more like 40 years or something.
Almost always
Is it
you,
because of salt?
well, one, that is a main reason that it would break down sooner than expected. But typically, public works buildings in general is always not even public, just public buildings. You're looking at 20 years, like the wastewater plant, we build 20 years. So, yeah,
Okay,
hopefully it's 40 years.
yeah, that's right.
I don't even know. When
Yeah.
did we put the ones in that we're currently using?
Were you in kindergarten?
Certainly long
Todd?
before I was here.
Yeah.
30 years ago?
Stand out front of the shop. Cover the flat.
Your mic's not on.
It was to cover everything up with tarps. We had big plastic tires. I don't know. Let's see,
I mean, I started
25.
14
When'd you
years
start?
ago and you were fixing the roof then.
Okay, roof.
You're probably right, 25.
I'd say
I mean,
25.
yeah.
That sand shed. I'm amazed that it's still standing. It should have been down 4 years ago. You can look down the side. Them sides are warped bad. I don't know how. Of course, we put more than we should have in the shed. That's why didn't make something smaller. I just can't see why you'd make something smaller.
Yeah. I don't really want to.
I know
do want
cost
it
and like
dead.
that, but yeah,
Yeah.
the sand especially, get cold winters like this, then you got to go try breaking that sand pile, and that is a nightmare. It can be done. We've done it before, but
Well,
that's my 2 cents.
we all know we need new salt shed anyway, so.
And I just had one question. Are the walls poured concrete or are those cement blocks?
They are poured concrete
Okay,
in this design.
thanks, good, thank
We
you.
have explored a number of different designs. In this scenario, it would have to be like a poured.
Yeah,
We had looked at doing like the steel span,
Right.
fabric span buildings. There was a lot of concern about it working in our environment, and not necessarily being as, like I had approached that from the idea that if we weren't staying where we are, that we could move it, but it wasn't really that cost effective to move. And so we settled kind of over the years back to this kind of style.
Okay.
Yeah.
Looking for a bid?
All right, this is AJ. I'll make a motion to start advertising for salt shed bids.
I don't second it.
Okay, I said bid, I meant to say a motion. Okay, AJ. Bid, there I did it again. Motion to approve, and it was seconded by Todd. Now, this is not money directly, so we'll just do a roll call. All in favor, signify
Aye.
by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay, motion carries. Discussion with possible action on lead service lateral 2024 grant, Cheryl's favorite subject in the whole world.
Remind me which one you
Oh,
want
yes.
first, Cheryl.
The plan, the overall plan with then the administrative costs in the back. Okay, so we are moving along now a little faster clip with this grant that we started about a year and a half ago. And I just want to review real quickly what the plan is that Sarah and I had moving forward with this grant. And this grant is to service and replace the galvanized private side galvanized service line running from the curb stop into the house. And the grant previously we had was 100%. Excuse me, I'm
Principal forgiveness.
yes, just a second.
Oh, no. I know it's starting to come up. Let me know if you want me to take over. Oh.
Okay, we're gonna try this again. So I wanted to just run through this plan with you real quickly because it is kind of a segue into the next two agenda items, which is approving a financing ordinance and a financing agreement. It has been a while since we've gone through this as well, but we did receive a loan, or excuse me, a grant award for $250,000 with a 75% match of principal forgiveness and a 25% loan, which can be passed on to the consumer, the customer, which that has already been approved, that the customer will receive 75% reimbursement and the cost will be 25%. What has been taking so long is that we needed to come up with something that if a customer could not afford the 25% upfront fee, which we have an average of $5,500 per water service line replacement, private side water service line replacement. That is about, Sarah and I feel very comfortable with that approximation or approximate amount to use. So that would be $1,375 that the customer would have to come up with. Some of our customers have that laying around and some of them don't. So if they have that share of cost, then we can move forward right away and they can do the service line replacement. If they don't have their share, Sarah and I wanted to come up with a plan that didn't affect the rest of the ratepayers by having to increase rates to help subsidize that 25% loan that the utility would give the customer. The customer would pay that back to the utility. However, in a number of different scenarios we looked at originally, it was going to the PSC to do an actual rate case, which meant increasing all of our other customers' utility rates. So in order to not have that affect our customers, Sarah and I came up with a plan to charge a service fee upfront or an administration fee upfront of $230. And further along in my discussion, I will show you how we arrived at the $230. This $230 will be applied to every property owner that would like to take advantage of the grant, regardless if they can pay for the cost upfront or they need to do financing through the utility for that. That $230 will help take care of our interest that we will need to have for the loan repayment, any kind of labor costs that it will cost the utility, and any kind of pre-closing costs for bond counsel, etc. That, again, way we can alleviate having to put this in on utility rate revenue, which would mean increasing the utility rates. So originally, the PSC, which is the Public Service Commission, the DOA, which is Department of Administration, the DNR, and a city attorney, we're all thinking that this sounded just great. And we wouldn't have to go through the PSC, we wouldn't need additional approval, etc. However, because this was all new and it was going through a bill funding appropriations funds instead of just the DNR funds through a grant, there was some different requirements. And because again, it was new, not everybody really understood what all the requirements were. And so the PSC and the DNR finally decided that we needed to apply to the PSC, fill out an application to have our plan approved. And through some discussions with the PSC, a lot of it was because they just couldn't wrap their head around what we were trying to do. So I sent that in last July, the application, and it made its way through the PSC, but they were impressed with what Sarah and I had come up with, but two, they were concerned because even though it was following regulations, it was just something that really hadn't been tried before. So they had their regulatory attorneys review it. So that is what took so long. The final decision came about a month ago, about a month ago now, that yes, our plan has been approved. No, we do not need PSC approval. And no, we do not need to raise all other customer rates. And when I did the application, I sent this in for 10 years. So we have been approved. So we've been approved to be unapproved for up to 2034. And I have the letter. So our plan right now is good for the next 10 years, as long as there isn't significant changes to any kind of financing going forward that would be needed either on the grant side or the utility side. So that is kind of a little background of where we came up with all this stuff. I think if we go to the second page, I came up with a few scenarios so you kind of would understand how this would work if Jane can pay her amount or her portion when the work is done, or if Jane could not. If Jane had funds available and we determined that she had galvanized lines, by approving, we'll send our water staff out, confirm it. There is a list of pre-qualified plumbers that have gone through the qualification process, and several are local. We'll send out an RFQ again. That's part of the bill funding requirements. Any certified licensed plumber just has to fill out a form, and if approved, they can be part of our list. So if Jane can pay that, either she had the funds available, she borrowed it from her neighbor, or she received a loan from an outside source, she would need to come up with, using $5,500 again, the $1,375 plus the $230 service fee. That will be deposited into a restricted bank account that is separate from all other revenue accounts through the utility. It will be housed on the utility funds side. It will not be part of general funds, but it needs to be in a whole separate category because it's not considered true revenue. It's an in-out. When Jane's payment clears the bank, and all the agreements, there are several agreements that need to be signed. When they are all signed, then we can begin construction. And by construction, I mean the plumber can start work, taking out the old service line. Cindy knows exactly what I'm talking about. We did hers as part of the first grant, but she was under the 100% grant reimbursement. So, right. So once construction is finished, the utility will verify the work was completed and completed correctly. And then the utility will pay the invoice directly to the plumber. I will then file all the necessary paperwork to receive reimbursement from the grant, and the cash to pay the contractor will be then replenished that I took out from a fund that we have started as seed money. The principal and interest payments will be drawn off the restricted bank account. So that principal, and then especially the interest payments, that interest payment is part of that $230. So there's not going to be any other revenue that will be taken from a revenue source through the utility. If Jane cannot pay her portion, so if she is unable to pay her portion for the replacement and is unable to receive a loan from another funding source, the utility could offer her or can offer her a loan for the $1,375 portion. $230 service fee will need to be paid before construction can begin, or we have actually talked today a little bit more too, if need be, we can roll that into her financing agreement as well. We will have enough seed money that will cover us. The agreement would need to be signed, which again is, I believe, Agenda 11, for the repayment plus the annual interest of 1% and placed on the property taxes as a special charge for a period up to, but not to exceed 5 years. That is following state law. And then once the financing is completed and the $230 service fee has been paid, or again, rolled over into the financing, the construction can begin. And then like above, the plumber will be paid directly from the utility and the reimbursement from the grant will replenish the cash. So the loan payments that Jane makes through her property taxes, through the special charge, will be deposited into the same special segregated account or restricted account that we will pay the principal and interest back to our loan as a loan reimbursement. This bottom part here, this is what I sent to the PSC. So this just tells the PSC what accounts I plan on putting these to. As with the old grants, the PSC has mandated that we put this particular grant to fund 61-41500 and 61-41600. At the end of this whole grant period and the end of our payments, those accounts will be zero. PSC just needed to see that. So the next page will give you a brief look at how we arrived at the $230 service fee, administration fee, I should say, administrative fee. So the fixed cost would be the closing costs. And I did get a quote from Quarles and Brady on 2/24/24. I have recently reached out to them late this past fall, and they still stand by their $7,000 bond fee. And the reason why we need a bond counsel is because we actually have to close on this loan. It's very similar to a USDA loan, a clean water, drinking water fund loan. And bond counsel just really helps us through the whole process that is, how do I want to say this, Nate? It's a necessary function to close on these loans. Normally bond counsel could be $10,000, $12,000, $15,000, just depending on the loan, but they have told me that because this is so simple, it's only $7,000. Of that, however, we can receive 45% of that paid through the principal forgiveness part of this business administration section of the loan. So the utility will be responsible for $3,850. Sean, our financial advisor, they're not charging us for this at all. Based on 24 wages and benefits, which includes like WRS, Social Security, Medicare, we do just a little quick calculation for an average insurance cost and throw it in there. That's pretty common when you're trying to figure out labor costs for a grant, is you do wages and benefits. So based on the 24 wages, the principal forgiveness will pay 45% of that, and the utility then will have to pay for the 65% of that. We put in postage, I put in other miscellaneous costs, even copy paper, because we were allowed to do that. So we're trying to recover all costs possible for this loan to not affect our ratepayers. The interest on the loan, 75% of the $232,000 that would go directly to construction would be reimbursed. So our loan, if all customers took advantage of this opportunity, would be $58,000. So the interest on $58,000 over 20 years is $1,469.13, plus the interest on the other project costs up above is $220. So I added all those together, and that equals $9,515.80 over a period of well, I guess it wouldn't be 2 years anymore. It'll be this year because it ends December 31st, 25. We estimated that we could, if we use the 5,500 as a guide, we could service or help 42 of our customers replace their water lines. So that would be rounding up $230. So that's how we arrived at that service fee or administration fee. And I still feel very comfortable with that. We'll amply cover our costs. Is there any questions on this so far? It's a lot.
I'm very impressed at all the work you guys have put into this. Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, if that number of 42 estimated customers, if they don't take advantage of it, does the number reducing increase that per customer cost, or because the function doesn't have to happen, that doesn't need to be recovered?
So currently, this is a voluntary basis.
Sure.
The EPA and the DNR have not required this just yet. The lead service line, yes. If you have a lead service line, that is required. Galvanized piping is not, but they have expanded this grant to include galvanized water service lines. We hope that we don't have to get any of this money back. The last grant we have, I actually started making phone calls to people that we knew had galvanized lines to make sure they were aware of this.
Okay.
But the $230 will not change. That is, I think it would be
Independent.
unfair and difficult to go back to a customer and say, okay, well, we only had 40 people, so now your costs will go up. I feel confident that if we don't take out the full 58,000, our interest will go down, we won't have
Sure.
as much loan to pay back.
Over
So
the
I
top.
think we're okay.
Gotcha. Thank you.
AJ, did you have any questions?
I don't right now, no.
I know this is a lot, so.
I was kind of thinking the same way. What if you don't get anybody who's interested, or most people have galvanized pipes in town, or just a certain?
No, we
one-
have probably 110, 115 confirmed galvanized. Yeah, and then we have some still unknown, which is roughly about 100 unknown. We've been trying to take care of them in the last couple of months, or as we go out to customers' houses to fix meters or to check on something. We've been having our utility staff identify what their lines are, so we can, because that's a requirement from the DNR requirement of the lead service line reporting. So yeah, if we don't use it all, I'm sorry, what was your question?
Yeah,
I'm getting
I was
myself
just curious.
lost.
Some people will want to do it and some won't.
Oh,
so-
yeah, so we've already had 7 people, in the past year, we have had 7 people that have had water line breaks that had galvanized lines. And we have been told, and we have emails confirming this, that we are able to go back and reimburse those customers through this grant. So that will also
That's
help
great.
with the seed money.
That's good.
And I have a list of 11 or 12 people that as soon as this grant has been approved, I need to call them and let them know, because they're interested, they want to do it. Unfortunately, that were on the list have had water lines break. So now they've had the fix, so now they're on the other list to be reimbursed right away. But
Oh, good.
yeah, and every time we identify a galvanized line, we let them know that
Yeah.
we are anticipating a grant coming through. We're not promising, but we're working on it.
I think it's a wonderful service we're providing.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
absolutely. It will save a lot of money to our customers.
Do you need us to approve this then?
I do not. It's already been approved actually at
Okay.
previous Public Works meetings, but it's just been a long time since we've done this, and this was approved I think February, March of 24. this plan. So I just wanted to go through it again, especially for Seth and AJ and
Thank you very much.
refresher.
Thank you again for all that work.
Appreciate it.
It's a
We
very,
tried.
it's a very good service we're providing. Yeah. Okay,
So that leads us into some other things.
you ready to go on to the next item?
I am, if there is no more questions at this time.
Okay. Discussion with possible action on financing agreement for the lead service line grant.
So we need to
Did I
do the
skip 10?
ordinance. Yes. So let's go back to
Discussion with
10.
possible action on private lead service line replacement financing ordinance. Sorry.
You're okay,
A lot of
Sarah.
lead stuff in.
I probably confused her too. I don't know. You had a lot. You had a lot to put up.
There we go.
But I can start.
Was. What's that? I saw it.
So once we knew that the PSC has approved that we did not need approval, we contacted DNR and our contacts there, and they did say, yes, you are still eligible for this current construction period. You go ahead and move forward. So I contacted our city attorney because there are other requirements that we need to do, but we didn't want to have to go through them if we didn't really have a purpose to. So one of them is the private lead service line replacement financing ordinance. This is something that is a requirement from state statutes and a requirement of this loan. It's pretty straightforward. It pretty much just tells people that if you want to take advantage of this grant and you are unable to pay for your costs up front, you can refinance, or excuse me, have a financing agreement with, and in this case, it does say city, but it's really the utility who is servicing this. It's sort of like the USDA loans and the clean water loans where it always says the city of Viroqua has this loan, but it's all paid through utilities and is run through utilities. It's legal terminology, right? And just number G on the first section, I just wanted to point out, even though the ordinance does say private lead service lines, really when it means LSL, it does mean galvanized, and it does have that down here as well in the section 13.11.020G. It is specifically saying construction of galvanized material as well. So we are covered in that respect. Otherwise, this is pretty straightforward. Again, I just want to remind you that the funds will be housed on the utility fund side, will not be part of the general fund. And I know I sent this kind of late this morning. I apologize. We got this back last week and I just haven't had time to really sit and review it fully. If there's any other questions, or I can go through this more thoroughly as well.
I'm sure that the attorney's got it all right, and you checked it, I'm sure, very well. Anybody have a
I
question?
like reading contracts.
Well, good. Very. Anybody have a question? Okay, so we are looking for a motion to approve this or send it on to council probably.
Yeah, so is this where we do the wave of the, okay, Lori will tell me. She knows that I don't know this flow. Okay, yes, so I would like you to approve this so I can send it on to council.
Okay, looking for a motion.
This is Crystal, and I would move approval of a private lead service line replacement financing ordinance as described.
Be sent to council. for
Yep.
Okay, motion by Crystal,
Seth, I'll second that.
second by Seth. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Hi,
Aye. Motion carries. Discussion with possible action on financing agreement for the lead service line grant.
All right, me again. This is a It's called a promissory note, covenant, and mortgage, and it's basically a financing agreement that our attorney put together based on the template that the DNR sent over, that they are suggesting, according to the DNR's attorneys, what should be said in our agreement for financing, lack of better words. Basically, what it is, it's a promissory note, it's a promise to pay that the loan will not exceed up to $2,700 plus the $230 administration fee. And that says in consideration, we put $2,700 on there because if you do there could be other service line replacements that could cost $8,000. And so 25% of that would be more. But Sarah and I feel that 25% or the $2,700 would cover us fully. If for some reason there was one way out of line of $15,000 or something, we might have to relook at something like that. But otherwise, this should cover us for all of our replacements. It does say the $230 can be rolled over, and it is a requirement of this particular financing loan. It does say over a term of 5 years, the interest rate will be 1%. The repayment will be on their property tax bill as a special charge. So after this is signed, I will go ahead to the county. I will file a lien on their house, and that will become a part of, if they go to sell their house, it'll be part of their closing costs. That will have to be paid up front, or it'll have to be negotiated at the time of purchase. The property owner may repay all or a portion of the balance without penalty, basically. So, you're like some people who just want to pay more, great, don't pay it off. Otherwise, there's just a lot of other legal things that has to be part of this. We can, like I said, we will put a lien on the house or on the property, not on the house, on the property. It's on the building. And so if they default or they can't make, like if they don't pay their property taxes or they default, the way that it happens now is the city does pay the utility what they should receive. So I'll send Lori a list of for like example, tax roll payments that we receive from landlords where their tenants don't pay. I could put that on the property taxes as well. I send Lori a list of that. We have a couple special assessments Lori puts through. So the city does pay the utility up front, and then the city is reimbursed through the taxes, through the property tax collection. If for some reason they are in foreclosure or they don't pay their property taxes and the city then cannot collect that money, the utility can take them to court. And we can, according to what I read here, we are able to recoup that cost legally. I'm not sure what the city has done. That I just wanted to make sure there was some way we could recoup this cost. Honestly, I anticipate only a handful of customers taking advantage of this financing plan. I really do. I really think everyone's going to be basically paying it. So I'm not real concerned about it. If, yeah, I mean, I guess you always have to gamble, but I'm not concerned because I'm not concerned about the city, because if the city, for some reason, then the utility would have to repay the general fund, right? We wouldn't be able to not repay that general fund money. There's other financing sources that we have for non-ratepayer revenue. I don't think we're going to need to use that. I honestly don't.
Cheryl, can I ask a question?
Yes.
When you were working with George on this, on the promissory note, are you guys going to put the exact amount? Or is it just going to always say not to exceed $2,700?
No, there'll be exact amounts.
Okay.
There'll
that's-
be a form that we will have that will list name, property address, what the actual dollar amount of the construction was, what the dollar amount they're borrowing. I have a problem with that word. What the interest rate is, what the payments will be over the 5 years. It'll be all very
Is
spelled
that going to
out.
be filed with the promissory note then?
Yes, it will be. George is working on that right now, but it's not required to be passed by council. That's sort of a side thing, but yeah, and there'll be places for numbers and signatures and all kinds of stuff. I'll bring that forward probably shortly.
Because it would be so much fun to look at.
Right? Exactly. So once we, if you pass this on to council and council passes it, I won't go in so much in depth. I promise you won't have to spend another half an hour or so.
After all that work, isn't it kind of fun to be able to explain everything, you know? Really?
She looks like
I
she's.
don't know if that's my idea of fun, but
It's kind of, yeah, it's kind of like
gratifying.
gratifying.
It's
Yeah.
finally nice to just be here at this
It's just-
point, right?
Yeah.
We're on the downside now, I guess. Yeah, the downside where I think once this gets passed, things are gonna move pretty fast. And I would expect to close April, May.
This is a real good thing for the citizens of
Yeah,
Brookline.
I'm pretty
Oh, yeah.
excited because then,
Yes.
the fun work begins.
Then you deal with plumbers and.
It will be nice when people constantly ask, did you get the grant? We can finally say, yes, yes, we got the grant. Because we certainly have people
Yes.
anxiously hoping
good,
that they
good.
can be reimbursed
Well,
or get their project done.
Okay, so we need a motion to send the financing agreement grant on to council.
Okay, this is Crystal, and I would move that we approve the financing agreement for the lead line service grant and forward it on to council.
Okay, motion by Crystal,
Todd will second it.
second by Todd. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Possible closed session per Wisconsin Stats 19.851C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governing body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Utility billing clerk positions.
This
Most-
is, Crystal, I'd move that we go into closed session.
Motion by Crystal,
This is Seth. I'll second.
second by Seth. Roll call, please.
Andrew,
Aye.
Crystal,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
and Todd.
Long distance.
Did the has the recording? Okay, so we're waiting for Todd and the recording to stop.
Should I just start?
No, we're not closed yet.
Oh, yeah, Todd is.
He hasn't stopped the recording. Yeah, open the doors up. We are out of closed session. Reconvene in open session with possible action on items discussed during closed session. That's not necessary. And then we get to do it again. Possible closed session per Wisconsin Stats 19.851C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governing body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Street operator in training position and utility operator in training position. Motion to go into closed session.
This is Crystal. I will so move.
I will second. This is Seth.
Cindy,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
Todd,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
Crystal.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, we are out of closed session. Reconvene in open session with possible action on items discussed during closed session.
This is Crystal, and I'd move that we proceed as we discussed in the closed session.
Motion by Crystal. We have a second.
AJ, I'll second.
Second by AJ. Roll call, please.
Mhm.
Todd,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
Crystal,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
and Seth.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Sewer project 2024 update, Sarah.
Well, I'm not gonna take much time here because I know we're ready to go. We are, yeah. That's another issue, yeah. So we're still working on this project. We got our $60,000 from the EPA. Well, I shouldn't say we got it. Did we get it? Did you check this morning? Okay, we did get it. I was gonna say we got it approved. And we're trying to work on the easement and yeah, I'll just keep it straightforward.
Anybody have any questions for Sarah about sewer? Very good. Street department update.
Let's see, okay, so they've been cutting trees, tending the burn site, which was way more brush than we've had, about 3 times more than normal. Patching potholes, maintenance on equipment, and we're getting our salt order for this year coming right away here, because we've actually used a bit of salt in the last little bit.
Oh, I'm
So-
surprised we had to buy any more salt.
Well, we have to by
Once
contract.
you order it.
We
or
ordered
contract.
200 ton this year. It's so hard to know,
Oh, yeah.
but we do have room for it now, which means we've used probably 300 plus ton this year.
Oh, okay. Any questions? Okay, utility update.
Okay, in a nutshell, last week I did billing, had the audit and paid bills and a whole bunch of stuff. So
How did the audit go? Okay.
it was hell week. Excuse my language.
I second
sorry.
that motion.
It was a super busy time for us last week. The audit, I think went well. The auditors were very understanding that I still owe them stuff. And I have not started the PSC annual for my part of the audit yet, which I normally have done like a week before the audit. So they gave me till March 15th. So that's what I'll be working on in the afternoons. Otherwise, I mean, for the most part, it went well. I will tell you guys there are going to be some entries that will need to be made because I did not have time to do the analysis and critiquing that I usually do.
Understandable. Yeah.
So, yeah. So hopefully next year is bigger and better because I'm not happy with that, but it is what it is. I had a lot of stuff
Yeah.
going on. So, yeah. Otherwise, just changing out meters and making some headway and chipping away at stuff.
Anything to add, Sarah?
Yeah, Greg said similar thing, meter changing. He's been going to, and Jared tomorrow with him doing some schooling, like some professional development. They started the sewer cleaning, so they do it biannually. There was a main break on Gillette, which was always nice and fun, and they've been working on locates. And
Locates?
locates, pretty much always doing locates.
I'm
It's-
sorry, but locates means what?
Locates means as a utility, we need to locate our water and sewer lines as well. This utilities also locates the storm sewer lines, which even though that's a city thing, and electrical lines.
Oh, gotcha.
So
Okay,
it's like
sorry.
they paint them on the ground so that, yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yep. I can't think very straight right now, so I couldn't tell you if I have any updates right now myself. If you have any
Okay.
questions though? I'm tired.
Yeah, it's been a long day. Okay. Second period for public comment. Nobody here, nobody online. Adjournment.
Todd will make motion to adjourn.
This is Seth, I'll second that.
Motion by Todd, second by Seth. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Yeah.